Hello and welcome back to Calathea. In the last episode, we made a start on the city centre. We built this huge high-rise area next to a low-income neighbourhood. This district has added nearly 6,000 people to our overall population, which is great news because we're trying to get up to megapolis population levels by the time Cities Skylines 2 comes out, so I think it shouldn't be too difficult to get there. I had a lot of fun building this district with a lot of different building styles, and I have actually gone in and added some more since the last episode and done a few bits around the map to fix some junctions, replace some buildings that had demolished themselves, and I've also added a few bits of housing here and there as extra content on TikTok and YouTube Shorts. I've changed and added a few things to this district. I've made this bit in the middle of this block of low-income flats into an actual usable car park because there were so many cars parked on the roads and it was starting to look quite messy. So I thought I would add a real parking lot behind here. I've also added a very small, thin police station down here. It's not the prettiest looking building, but they had a lot of police issues. And I've also added an elementary school to the other district because I totally forgot to put one in. The last thing I did was extend this block around the corner. So to begin with, it was just these three buildings here with the plaza. But when I was editing the video, I thought it looked really empty and it was a very kind of odd start to the beginning of the high-rise district because the buildings next to it actually aren't that tall and there's a big gap through the middle. So I added a lot more taller and smaller ones in the middle, again a mix of vanilla and custom assets, mostly vanilla though in this part. There's also a little park around the back here too, and a lot of pathways through the middle, so people will actually be able to walk through the middle of the buildings to get from one place to another. There's a little person down there and a few people down there walking about, and I tried to put these little planter plaza things in the corners of the pathways to kind of show where they are because you can't see them under the cement. So like I said, this district has added about 6,000 people to our overall population. We're sitting at around just under 18,000 now. So we really need public transport in here now. So as you can see, the districts are all really far apart at this point. And to get from this one here to this one here, you actually have to go across 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 massive interchanges. And as the population is growing so fast, I don't want to be adding extra pressure to the roads. So today we're going to be putting in a few different forms of public transport. And obviously we haven't finished the map yet, so there will be bits that are left to be finished in future episodes, but we're going to be putting the groundwork in today so that we can build on it in the future. Because this map only has one external line, so technically there are two parts where it joins onto the end of the map, but it's only one line and it goes from one side to the other. And there's no connection up here. So I'm trying to put as little added pressure onto this line as possible. So we will have one external connection and an internal track that connects all the districts together. There's also going to be a few bus routes within the districts that take people out to the stations. And in some places, the districts won't have a station, so there'll be a bus route taking them to the closest one. I've had a lot of practice building public transport networks in my various builds. Some of them have gone well, some of them have definitely not gone so well, and some of them have just ground my entire map to a halt. So I'm trying to not let that happen on this one by thinking ahead to where the pressure points are going to be. So the main international and internal station is going to be in this section down here, which is where the main city is going to be. So let's get stuck into it. Okay, so here is the first part of the train network in the city. This is the connection to the external line. So it's just one simple junction at the bottom that should be long enough for a train to sit in each part of it without crossing over and blocking each other. It connects up to this crossover train station hub. So the external line comes in underground and goes into the underground line, and then the internal line will be above ground. So I thought it would be good to have these coming in at different levels because there is going to be a crossover here because the university is going to have its own internal train station stop. It will take a while for the trains to start coming to the station. At the moment, there's not really any need for anyone to come over here. So I'm going to start the internal train network and I'm going to come back and check on the station in a while. So I just came back to check on this station, and this is precisely the reason why we need a decent public transport network with more than one type. Because these cars have absolutely jammed themselves into this station car park. And this happened in Paloma Valley the other day as well, because everyone gets off the train and immediately tries to get into a car, and then they all try and spawn from the same place. So by having a bus route nearby or an adjoining internal train network or a metro station or something else that they can get onto, it means that people getting off of the train down here aren't all going to go and jump straight into a car because they are going to be stuck there for quite a while. So let me get back to building so I can make sure this doesn't keep happening. You might not recognise this side of the map. We haven't actually done anything over here yet, but I've got big plans to do stuff in these little cove areas in the future. So we need a train route round here. There is an existing network and it ends in this kind of derelict old station that comes with the map. It's kind of an abandoned side of the island. You can see how the track's kind of fallen into the water there. So instead of just removing this completely, I'm actually going to have this form part of the internal ring. I'm going to get rid of the external connections. So on this map, the only place you'll be able to get in from the outside is to this station here, unless that starts causing me problems in the future and I might change it. But for now, the internal structure is going to go all the way around and this bit is going to be the only external link. So I've just connected the track up to the existing track here. So I'm going to remove the external links, and then I'm going to rebuild this broken piece of track and continue it on. So this is my completed train network. There's a big loop that goes around the centre of the map and a little bit that goes up to these districts up here. I actually have a Mediterranean station that I downloaded as part of this asset pack, and it is perfect. It looks exactly like a station you'd find in Spain or in Portugal. And I put a few of these parking bays with solar panels out the front, the same ones that we used in the rich district, and they provide electricity to the station. We gave the stations temporary electricity sources if they needed them, because not all of them actually have stuff around them just yet, so I want them to actually be running. This district over here has quite a grand station as the end of the line. Obviously the trains aren't going to go out across the sea that way, so this is the end of this little spit up here. And then this district has a sunken train, and I tried to use keys to blend the edge of the sunken track. Obviously people won't actually be able to walk along here, but I thought it looked better than having the kind of jagged edges of the terrain instead. And then down here, the first one I did is the university station. The road to the station comes straight from the campus, and there's also going to be a bus loop that brings people from the station into the campus centre and then back again. So now the tracks have been laid, all I need to do is to draw the lines in. It's going to be two separate lines because obviously we've got a dead end up here, so they're going to go from this station all the way through to this station and then back again. The other line is going to be a loop that goes all the way around in both directions. So because I don't have any stations around the other side of the map yet, it won't actually draw the line all the way around in a circle because the track is too far. So for now, the circle line is just going to go back and forth between the three stations on the main part of the map. I'll be able to make it into a full circle once we've got a station on the other side. So I've made the two train lines orange and blue. Orange is after the Mediterranean houses on the north of the peninsula because this is the north-south line, and the blue reminds me of the swimming pools in the backyards of the mansions in the rich district on the south. So I don't expect it to be super busy straight away, but as you can see we've still got lots of problems in the car park of this train station, so hopefully with the addition of these lines people will get onto the trains rather than getting into the cars. But to help them out a little bit more, I'm going to put some bus routes in. Not that you can really see from this high up, but I put in all of the bus routes now. None of them go along the highways. That is very, very important because I don't want to be adding extra traffic onto the roads. The buses for now almost act like shuttle going from the town centre to the train station. The first one is a shuttle loop that goes from the campus square to the campus station and back again. Now, as I was building this one, I realised it is ridiculously busy. There are so many people waiting at that station for the bus that they're not all being picked up in time. So I'm going to need to have a fiddle with the numbers at some point after looking at stats to try and make it as optimised as possible. The second bus route is a loop again that goes from the train station through to the rich district and then back again. So this road is getting really backed up now, especially with the addition of the train station and the campus and people trying to get down into the district, because it's actually quite far away from the highway. So lots and lots of people coming in via car. So I thought I would add a bus route in here so that people in this district can get out to the train more easily. So let's have a look at the stops. Oh wow, there is a lot of people waiting at that one. A lot of people waiting at that one as well. And at that one. And at that one. I think we're going to need to add some more buses onto this route already, because they're only a 30 capacity bus and they're going to get filled up very quickly. When it came to the placement of the depot, I tried to put it in the most central place as possible. Obviously it doesn't look very good just being on this road here, but like I said, with the electricity, it's all temporary until we can build up the area around it. So there's another bus route that goes between these two districts here, because this district doesn't actually have a train station. The closest one is down here. So there are a few stops in the middle of the town. It's quite a busy stop there and there. And like I mentioned before, this is going to be a metro station in the future. So I thought I'd put a stop near here in preparation for that. Bus route then goes down to the train station here, and there's a huge amount of people waiting for that one as well. So then there are a few stops on this main road. There won't be anyone really waiting there yet. Maybe on this side there might be a few people. Actually, that's a few more than a few people. How many people is that? 740 people waiting for the bus is quite a lot of people. So I think I'm going to up this one while I'm talking this bit through, because I think that's the highest number I've ever seen waiting for a bus before. Oopsies. Okay, but anyway, moving on. That's this bus route, and it's obviously very popular already. Maybe they're going over there to work in the industry or work in the commercial centre, because there isn't that many jobs over this way yet. So I'll keep an eye on that route for sure. Up here, I don't have one in the Mediterranean district because it's literally just across the road. It's a very small district. This district over here looks like there's a huge amount of people using the train. Massive amount of people waiting for this bus here. So that is good news. And this bus route is more of a circular route that goes through the whole district, because this is quite a large district. People might be using the bus to get just from, you know, home to school or getting to work. Oh, that's a lot of people as well. Again, I'm scared to look at how many people that is at that stop. 260. Okay, that's not too bad. It's not 300. So let's put a few more buses on, because they'll take a while to come from the depot because it's quite far away. So obviously this public transport is being heavily used already. So I'm going to really need to keep an eye on the numbers of people using the services. Something that I thought was quite important about this station in particular, because it's got 4 lines there, I tried to make sure that the different internal lines were going through on different tracks so that they weren't stopping each other from going through. So the north-south line goes through the centre, and then the circle line goes through the edges. I'm going to have a look at the transport screens to see if I need to increase or decrease the numbers or capacity on any of the existing routes. Some of those lines definitely needed higher capacity vehicles and more vehicles on the lines. Unfortunately, it is going to now send back all of the buses to the bus depot and shoot out some more. It's probably going to make the traffic on this part of the map really bad for a moment, because it's going to be putting all of the new buses out and taking all of the old ones in, and they're all going to have to come back to this one place. I'll probably put another depot in on another part of the map at some point, but for now, this will be fine as the only one. So I've let this play through for a while and fiddled with the numbers on the capacity and the amount of trains and buses on each route. I feel like it's reached an equilibrium for now. There were hundreds and hundreds, nearly thousands of people at some of the stops, but by boosting the number of vehicles right up and then reducing it a little bit, it's kind of evened itself out now, and we have a good amount of buses and trains for the amount of people waiting at each stop. Obviously this station is going to be the busiest and is always probably going to be the busiest, but it's putting a lot of strain on the bus route that goes through to Primrose Heights, because the buses can only carry 75 people and there's still hundreds of people waiting at the stops. But I don't want to keep adding more buses on, because the numbers are always going to be high at this one. I'm just going to keep adding more and more, and then the cars aren't actually going to be able to move on the road. So it's going to be a little bit busy for a while, but that's not too much of an issue for me. So now that I've done all the public transport lines I wanted to do today, I'm going to be doing a little bit of detailing around each station. so I've done a small amount of detailing around all of the stations, not too much because they're already quite decorated as it is. So with this one, I've just put a hedge around the edge of the quay up here just to blend in the edges a little bit, and I filled in this kind of triangular gap down here with some trees and a few of these little planters that I've been using all over the place. I've also added some decorative parking lots in this block. It was quite an awkward space to fill because of the size of it, so these ones I had to be a little bit creative with how they fit. I've alternated them and put planter at the back of each one so that it doesn't look too sparse, and there's a pathway down the middle so people can get from one side to the other. There's still a lot of people using this bus, but it seems to have peaks and troughs whenever there's an international train come in. So at some points we actually have more buses than we need, and at others we don't have anywhere near enough, so I'm not going to worry about it too much for now. I'm just going to let it do its thing, and there should be a little bit less pressure on it later on in the series once we get the metro in. Again, I didn't do too much to the station down here. I just added some trees and a couple of little bus shelters out the front here. These are great little props, and I also added some planters as well just to fill in that concrete gap. I made sure there wasn't any bits clipping around the back, and I filled in all of the grassy gaps with trees. And I also added this pathway down here because it looked like a lot of people were getting off of this train and actually going to this district here, which I guess in a way it might be closer to this end of the district than this station is. So I connected this path up to this road and put in a crossing here just so people weren't having to go through the whole university ground to get home. I haven't done masses of detailing over here because I haven't started on this side of the district yet. I put this unique building plaza in because it looks pretty good as you're coming into the city, having that on the left hand side. I've left the gap in the middle because I wasn't quite sure what to put there, and I'm not just going to put something down for the sake of it. I will decide what I'm going to put there once I start on this side of the district. I've also added a few of these little planter things just to fill in the little gaps in the corners, and I've put some along the centre of this car park as well because this bit technically isn't part of the car park, but I didn't want to just leave it empty. I don't know whether people will actually be able to get to them to use them, but they are there just for aesthetics. I did pretty much the same over here, put some parking lot plazas out the front and a few of these little planters. I also added some trees around the back of the station because it was very empty out the back and I didn't want them to just have a view of the highway. That's not exactly very nice. It looks like these parking shelters with the solar panel roofs are really handy because lots of people are using them. And again, I had to be quite creative with the centre part because this part here only actually went up to about here and there wasn't really anything that would fit in this gap. So I actually used the tiles and continued them on, although it's not great from every angle. It kind of gives the impression that the park continues all the way through, even though this part of the back isn't actually usable. The only thing I did over here is add some trees around the edges and a few little bus shelters down the front. I've been keeping an eye on the bus routes and it seems like they are starting to even out in this district. I know there's a lot of people waiting there, but the buses have a capacity of 75 and there are I think 7 or 8 buses on this route, so I'm not too worried about the amount of people standing out the front there. But it is nice to see people using the trains to get from one district to another, so I take that as a win for what we've done today. So this is where I'm going to end today's episode. This one was a little bit different to what I've done so far, with it being mostly transport rather than building. But I think that this is going to really set us up well in the future, especially when we expand the city centre, and the population is probably going to ramp up quite quickly from now on. So having a solid public transport system in place is going to be very handy as the population grows. Once we build up more of the city, I will be putting in a metro system as well. Now that I have the mass transit DLC, there are a lot more of the transport hubs that I have available to use. So I'll probably be implementing them in future builds with the city centre. But I'm very happy with what I've done today and I think this sets us up solidly for the future. So thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next one.